This is now a pro playoff podcast.
Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 28-10 loss to the Ole Miss Rebels. We talk about our experiences on Saturday and what stood out to us during the game. As always, remember to check out the newly redesigned MyGottaPodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at MyGottaPodcast. Finally, if you need help with your website or your online presence, head over to workingwebmedia.com/dogs. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. Well, that one definitely wasn't as we predicted.
It was not. It was not. I mean, kind of shocking, actually,
Yeah. And like
on many fronts.
full disclosure, I actually thought we were going to win by more than I said on the podcast. I got stitious and like, as John Michael Lee says, and I basically like gave the score that I gave last year because I was like, well, that worked last year really well, and we blew them out because I thought we were going to win by a lot.
You thought we were going to win? I thought we were going to lose.
You thought we were going to lose this game,
Yeah.
like going in?
Yeah, I thought we were going to lose the game.
No, well, you didn't say
It
that.
was, it
You
was
just were
impossible.
you were just keeping that inside to yourself.
No, no, I mean, I told everybody I knew I thought we were going to lose this game.
Well, you didn't say it on the podcast.
We're talking about Atlanta United, right?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. That was the only game that happened this past weekend, Jim. I don't know. I don't know. I blacked out on Saturday. I don't know.
Well played. Well played. That was amazing. Uh,
I
cut.
figured we'd lead. I figured we'd lead off with some positivity, Jim, because
Yeah.
frankly, I don't want to talk about it, as a wise man once said.
I was texting with Matt Moore. I texted Matt Saturday night after the game. That was pretty sweet. After the Atlanta United game. Um, yeah, that was fun.
That's awesome, dude. Shout out to Rob Valentino, interim head coach for Atlanta United. I think I mentioned this, but he goes to my church, and
Yeah.
our kids are buddies. Um, but yeah, dude, he and I talked about that at Halloween. They came trick or treating in our neighborhood. He and I talked about it at Halloween. I said, "Send that Argentinian packing," and then sure enough, he did.
Yeah, yeah, that was sweet. That was sweet.
I'm wearing the hat. I'm wearing the Atlanta United hat for my boys because they're making a run in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, which goes to show. Um, I've seen a lot of people. I've seen a lot of like, oh well, like why do we even want to see this team in the playoff and like things like that, being Georgia football. And to that I say, just get in. You never know. And
Yeah,
look at Atlanta United as, I mean, that's perfect evidence right there of you never know what's going to happen. All you got to do is get into that playoff and then go from there. So,
yeah, dude. Seriously, like if there ever was a team that the entire world just assumed was going to win, it was definitely Lionel Messi's team
yeah,
in Inter Miami.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's it's definitely a perfect scenario there for. I didn't mean to start off with a nice segue into playoff talk, but yeah,
it
that was
just naturally happened.
it just naturally happened. It just naturally happened that this is now a pro playoff podcast.
Oh man. Josh is like so happy. By the way, Josh texted me on Sunday when like our group chat was kind of going off the rails a bit, and Josh texted me directly and was just like, "Hey," he's like, next weekend is going to be awesome, right?" Georgia Tennessee. And I was like, "Yes, Josh, it's going to be amazing." It's pretty funny.
Dude, I'm gonna have major FOMO. I feel like everybody and their brother is just like with the Tennessee game that when they were ranked number one. It's just like that game. Like
Yeah,
the whole world is gonna be there.
yeah.
And my wife has Santa pictures. Awesome.
Go Santa. Um,
Go Santa.
so what I will say is, I think Generally, our defense kind of held Ole Miss to I think roughly what we thought they would,
Yeah.
points wise.
Hmm.
Because I had Ole Miss with 26 points or 24. You had 26. Hunter had 32. But they put up 28 points. It was the whole Georgia only scoring 10. I did not have that on my bingo card. I never, like, I knew they had a good defense. I never would have thought it would have been that low of a point total, especially with the way the game started. I mean, the way the game started, like,
You couldn't have asked for a better
it couldn't have been
start.
anything better. It could not have been anything. The defense came out on the field with their hair on fire, which is what we talked about, like kind of wanting to see, getting after the quarterback like we saw against Texas. They did that. I mean, it was like sack pick basically. Like the first, maybe that's over exaggerating a little bit, but
I mean, it was definitely pressure, pressure, pressure.
yeah. So and then short field ran the ball. We wanted to see us run the ball and basically ran the ball every play to get a touchdown.
Mhm.
Although I guess like the one thing that like needing to go to fourth and goal to score that touchdown with as close as we were there, like I was kind of like, what is going on? Like, can we not punch it in? And we did punch it in, but I don't know. Maybe that was an early warning sign there. But
Yeah, an early warning sign that Kirby knew that we were going to need points.
mhm, yeah,
But I mean, like, I don't know, man. Uh, thinking about that series is frustrating because you're like literally everything that you want to happen, turnover, short field,
yeah,
points. Like these are the thing these are a few of Kirby Smart's favorite things.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't understand where it went from there though. That's the part that is
The
just utterly mind-boggling on both sides of the ball.
the part that's hard to say is what went wrong was freshman left-handed quarterback came in off the bench.
I mean, I guess, but then he sat down back on the bench.
He did, but like that was, I mean, to me, like that was a big, huge turning point. The defense absolutely shuts him down, gets a pick, short field, took Dart out of the game momentarily. You know, thankfully he was able to come back, but never want to see anybody get hurt. But then you get a true freshman in there, a quarterback, and he just marches down the field 75 yards like it was nothing. That was frustrating. Like I don't know what changed. Like we didn't have a plan for him or whatever. It didn't. Maybe they had just adjusted. I don't know. I'm not a certified ball knower, and I haven't like watched any film breakdowns of this yet. So I don't know if they changed something, if we changed something. There was a felt like there was a drop off in like an intensity or something, but I don't know. Maybe that wasn't it. I don't know.
I mean, you said the hair was on fire. Did the rain extinguish it?
Could
Like,
have been, could have been, could have been. But but
I
then it
mean,
was like everything went wrong, right? So then it's like freshman quarterback comes in, so you're like, oh yeah, back up, like let's go. We don't even have to face Dart. Then he marched down the field and score. Then they kick off, and the kicker falls down, but it still ends up being a great play for them because it's a weird squib kick, and we don't handle it well. Then we're
right.
backed up, and then it was just like nothing went our way really after that point, um, except for some fluky things. But yeah, it reminded me, and we were texting about this with Hunter, like and John. It kind of reminded me of the 2017 Auburn game. Later in the season, road game, favored on the road, go in there, find early success, and then it just turns on you and snowballs, and you can never get back in the game. Um, so it felt a lot like that game to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely I definitely was worried after the first two offensive series pretty heavily. Um,
Yeah,
I think that from a, you know, if you're Glenn Schumann, you're like, what the heck do I have to do? Like, we forced them to field goals on all these different drives,
yeah,
forced them to punt, turn the ball over. Like, they were having a tough time. We held them to under their, under everything on from the defensive side of things. So I think that the defense did enough in this game, and the the really, really painful part of this game is that all of the chickens from an offensive standpoint came home to roost in a big, big way, in a way that I guess you're quick to remind us that you're never as bad as you think you are after a loss or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I thought that we were pretty awful.
Yeah. Well, that's the flip side of that coin is you're never as good as you think you are after a win either. Right. And I think we had been winning despite some deficiencies. And so you want to kind of excuse it or whatever, or think you can clean it up. And yeah, I mean, it all happened on Saturday.
Yeah,
It all happened.
they they did not clean it up, Jim.
No.
And they haven't cleaned it up all season. That's the part that's frustrating is that I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't run the ball consistently.
Couldn't run the
Um,
ball. 72% of Beck's passes were behind the line of scrimmage. His adjusted depth of target was, what was it, like 4 yards or something like that?
yeah. I mean,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, it was anemic, anemic. And I mentioned this on the last, on the Florida review. The more the more that teams play this offense, the more they're figuring it out, and the more I feel like that we have to do something different. I guess, and I pose this question, to our, internally on our chats or whatever, but like, at what point does Kirby Smart get so desperate then to do what Saban did to him in a big game, must-win game? We've got one of those coming up here.
Mm.
Um, Win or go home. Like at some point, you've got to throw the backup in or do something, different. I don't know, man. The part that's frustrating to me is that we had an entire coaching staff watch Carson Beck get picked up off the ground. What was it, 8 times or 5 times, something like that?
Mm.
Um, Constantly get hit, constantly in the backfield, constantly tackling for losses. Um, Plays were getting blown up left and right. We had offensive linemen picking themselves up off the ground, which is never a good thing. We had offensive linemen not engaging in blocks. We had offensive
Yeah.
linemen that were literally watching the defensive line tackle their quarterback, not even getting a hand on him. These are things that are really, really, really concerning from a what the heck are we doing? Like with the talent that's on this roster, we've got 3, 4 star players, and not a one of them looks like that they're getting better, developing, or um playing at the level that they need to this late in the season. I get it, everybody's hurt. I get it. We've got rotations, but like, dude, we just watched Georgia Tech just took down an undefeated Miami team, and they don't have nearly the talent that they do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so what? Like, that's like a famous like project management term. Like all this stuff happens. So what? Like you just figure it out, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And what's frustrating was like, I'm going to go back to what you were saying with like the percentage of passes thrown behind the line of scrimmage and Beck's depth of target. It was like, for one thing, we've been doing that like all year. And like we talked about that coming into the season. Like, when are we going to get vertical with Dominic Lovett? Like last year, we just threw screens to Lovett left and right. Like, like he can get downfield. He did that at Missouri. When will we see that here? Um, and now it's expanded to like everyone. And it's like either wide receiver screens, like the jailbreak screen or the tunnel screen or whatever. And that's like all we're doing. And you could say like, well, it was raining really hard, so they needed to adjust the game plan for the rain. Well, Ole Miss didn't. Like
mm,
they were throwing the ball down the field. They had no problem with it whatsoever, and they had guys running wide open behind between the linebackers and the safeties, basically. And we were unable to figure that out, or when we did, it was like no yak, right? No yards of the catch. I think like the deep ball to the wheel route to Cash Jones is a perfect example of that, where I'm not sure, like I haven't rewatched it. I know you and I were texting, like it felt like why wasn't that a touchdown? Like as open as he was. Maybe Beck had to fit it into a window from a safety coming over or something. I'm not sure. Like maybe he actually threw it in the right spot, but it felt like that.
He threw it in a safe spot is
Yeah.
what he did.
Yeah.
He threw it
Yeah.
to a safe spot.
Right.
Like it's almost like it's a microcosm of all the things that we've been frustrated about with Carson Beck all season long.
Right.
He played not to lose, which is good because when he's gone for that pass in the past,
It's
it
gotten
hasn't
intercepted.
it hasn't worked out or it's been intercepted. I mean, frankly, like
Yeah.
he's overshot 90% of those throws. I'm sure that he saw when he
Yeah.
sees Cash Jones dancing by himself in the secondary, like he's probably thinking to himself, with all the pressure and all that kind of stuff that, he talked about, he said he was going to take it one play at a time or whatever, but like, you know, I think that we'd all be dumb to not realize that I mean, shoot, his girlfriend is making TikToks about being the worst curse in college football.
Yeah.
Like they clearly know and they're talking about like how he's been playing. So it
Yeah.
has to be something that he's thinking about to a certain extent, even in the game, to not mess up. Like don't F this up. Even if it means throwing it short and completing the pass and taking what the defense gives you
Yeah.
and living to fight another down, which that's what they said that they wanted him to do. So this game, in my opinion, does not fall at the feet of Carson Beck. I think that there are maybe a handful of things here and there, the Cash Jones throw, a couple of throws here and there that I feel like that maybe, you could probably criticize him a little bit on, but like he did exactly what the coaching staff said that they wanted him to do, which was to, you know, not force it, take sacks if you need to. It's okay. Like just like
Mm.
next play, next play, next play, next play.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
up until the interception, and even the fumble wasn't his fault. It's freaking offensive line. Like the kid is literally getting blasted every single time he takes a snap.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I definitely don't put the pick on him either. Like I know we talked about texting, like the offensive line didn't engage with that defensive lineman whatsoever. Just let him stand there, and then he jumped and batted it down. Like you've got
yeah.
to
Uh,
go up to that guy. I think.
I don't understand that. Like I thought that like this goes to the I'm not like Stacy's not invited at Thanksgiving. Like I don't know what's going on, man.
Yeah.
Like whatever's happening, and I mentioned this before I mentioned this early in the game. It was at first I was getting onto the wide receivers, and then I started getting onto the offensive line because we couldn't Carson didn't have any time whatsoever to do anything. And our
Mm.
running backs were getting tackled 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage because literally everybody got beat along the line of scrimmage. This conference is a line of scrimmage conference. The game is a line of scrimmage game. If you don't win the line of scrimmage, you're going to lose the game more often than not. And we lost the line of scrimmage in every way, shape, and form. Michael Williams, you know, Jalen Walker, like those names were names that nobody really talked about in the game. Like at one point, I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that they were playing. They're
Yeah.
not hurt. They're not hurt."
Right. And that was the thing. It was like on that first drive, everyone was so disruptive. I don't know, man. I don't
I'm
know.
not paid $6 million a year or whatever it is that whatever it is that we're paying Kirby. I'm not getting paid millions of dollars a year to figure this out, but there is a person that is, and his name is Kirby Smart, and he lives in Athens, Georgia. And he needs to figure it out. Um,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, all of our problems, all of our woes, even on the offensive side of the ball, which I know is not something that Kirby is necessarily known for, but I don't know if he's I don't know if he's mandating different things that maybe our offensive staff doesn't want to do or doesn't feel comfortable doing, and we're just not doing a very good job of doing what Kirby wants to do. But I have a hard time believing that. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just these things just keep happening over and over again, and it's just this is the team that we are. We're a team that's going to struggle on the offensive line. We're a team that's going to struggle at the wide receiver position, which to start the game, like we started the game, the first, like for two third downs in a row, we dropped the ball on third down. One of them was a completed pass that should have been a first down.
Mm, yeah.
The,
Yeah.
the drop pass, that I think was it Dylan Bell? I think he dropped it. Or
He
was it Lovett?
Bell dropped one that was he was short of the sticks
He
anyway.
was short of the stick anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing we probably could have done there, but I don't know. Hey, shoot, maybe he catches it and maybe there's a penalty or maybe there's a
Well, yeah, we got
a wild
penalized.
hair that Kirby gets and
Well, yeah, I mean, we were getting crazy penalties too, like, not enough men on the line of scrimmage, like illegal formation. It was like we couldn't anytime we would like do good things, um, it'd get walked back for a penalty. Um, I want to go back to the Beck thing really quick because I feel like there's kind of two things there. One, I do feel like he did what they asked him to do. I was happy that he was like we actually saw him throw the ball away, like, and I was like, yes, like that's what
yeah.
we've been trying to get you to do. And even taking the sacks, like just don't turn a bad play into a disaster. And I felt like for the most part he did a good job of that. Um, the only thing that I was concerned about was early in the game, it felt like they also just weren't asking a lot of him. And so I don't know if that was like the scary thing is, could that be a trust thing? Although hearing Kirby talk, I'd like to think that it's not that. And then that leads me back to the weather, which again, I feel like it didn't bother them, them being Ole Miss. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. Also like the whole, like, ETN, I mean, his ribs are clearly bothering him.
Uh-huh.
We're like feeding him the ball early. He was doing great, and then I think early in that second drive, he took himself out, and I think you could see on TV the conversation between he and Kirby, and he's like pointing to his ribs. They bothered him, and Nate Frazier, talented freshman, scored our only offensive touchdown in the game. But I think we also saw some signs of why he hasn't gotten the playing time that we kept asking why isn't he getting it. He's putting the ball on the ground. So um,
Yeah.
gotta clean that up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that, yeah, you got to clean that up, but like at the same time, like you got to try something different. Like, okay, so
Yeah,
if that's not working, then like we have other guys that can play that role. I mean, Dylan Bell had a really good run out of the running back position. He's played that position in the past. We've
yeah.
got other running backs. Like we've got what, Nitro Tuggle. We've got
Well, he's a receiver, I think. But yeah,
well,
but we do got we got
we got Dwight,
we got Peanut.
Dwight Phillips,
We got Peanut. We got Chauncey
Peanut.
Bowens is the other. He's the other freshman.
And that was a name that came up in the pregame that Graham was talking about to not be surprised to see Chauncey Bowens toting
Yeah,
the rock.
yeah,
Um, like
yeah.
I, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like I guess that like if you're not worried enough to try a different quarterback,
That's
like
clearly not
maybe
going to happen.
I mean that's clearly like it's clearly not going to happen
I don't know.
because
Did you see Kirby's interview today? Have you seen that quote? Because Chip Towers asked him today
okay,
if he's
what did he say
Chip
exactly?
Towers asked Kirby if he had basically like it went over about as well as the visor. It actually probably went a little bit better than the visor question last week. Um, but he basically like, have you thought about in game making a change? And he said absolutely not. We've got a quarterback that is perfectly competent and capable and gives us the best chance to win. And there may have been some other stuff, and I paraphrase, but that's generally what he said. So I don't see it happening.
I don't know, man. Uh, if that's the case, then that's fine. Okay, so great. So you got your quarterback, right?
Yeah,
Um, and how do we feel about the wide receiver position,
I was gonna
Kirby?
say that.
Like
Yeah, that's another thing. Maybe apply that there, right? Like if you're not going to catch the ball, let's
people are
give somebody
dropping
else a chance.
passes.
Yeah,
People are dropping passes.
yeah,
You subbed out Frazier when he fumbled the ball. Like
yeah,
you clearly are okay changing some personnel here and there. I mean,
yeah.
when Xavier Truss is getting burned, you move him out and move someone else in. Drew Bobo at one point came in and played guard.
Mhm.
Um, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like I would be looking for a spark. If I'm in a situation where we're losing by multiple scores late in the third quarter, you need a spark. Like try
Yeah.
something different. Try something different.
Yeah. What's frustrating is like, let's see. So in the third quarter, I mean, we get the ball to start the second half and we go, man,
We
70 yards in 9 plays, a 9 minute and 44 second drive. Is that right? No, no, no. Sorry. That's not the time limit. Sorry. 5 minute and 16 second drive. But we only get a field goal. Like, this is like, that was the one with the pass, or was it? Maybe not. That was earlier. Yeah, that had to have been the drive where we had the long pass to Cash Jones. Because that was our only other scoring drive. Um,
Mhm.
and we just get a field goal
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, you get all the way down there, and the only thing you have to show for it is the field goal when it was so painful to get to that point. Like you score a touchdown there, it's a different face of the game from an optics standpoint.
There
Maybe
is.
they're maybe they're making different decisions, whatever. Like
Man,
uh,
our
from there we fumbled the ball.
I
Like
was
then,
say,
then we literally fumbled the game away after that. Like
yeah, our second half drive ending plays went field goal, fumble, interception, fumble, turnover on downs. That was our second half on offense. That's wild. Um, there is one other moment on like, something we've talked about is like the whole like complementary football thing. Um, and this kind of gets my back to, again, we've been texting about this a lot. Like, I think the defense played well enough to win, but I don't want to give them a complete pass and, say it was like perfect or anything. There was another moment that I felt really could have changed the game. So again, offense, kind of sputtered out and had to punt. And Brett Thorson makes a huge play and pins them at the 1 yard line. And at that point, it was, I think, 13-7, right? So they're at the 1 yard line. If in theory, you're thinking, hey, we can probably get some pretty good field position and take the lead if we get the ball back. Um, so got them pinned at the 1 yard line, and we gave up a 10 play, 63-yard drive that ended in a Ole Miss field goal. Another just huge moment for the Ole Miss offense there. And I mean, credit to Dart. I mean, gritty, gutty game for him, and he even made plays with his legs on a injured ankle that he injured or whatever he injured in the game. Um,
yeah,
he played he played really well, especially considering that. But that was just a key moment to me in the game where really felt like we had an opportunity to turn the game around and couldn't get off the field. Couldn't get their offense off the field.
yeah. I mean, you probably could have rewound a little bit further back and gone to the end of the second half. We
Mm,
had an opportunity to go after a punt, and we just let
yeah,
their guy just unload an absolute rocket
yeah, yeah,
that effectively ended any hope that we would have had to make a quick couple of plays here and there and sneak a field goal in before we get the ball back or whatever.
yeah,
Or, on the flip side of that, like send the house. Like send the house and try to get a block, get a safety, get some points, get a touchdown. Like
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was like, you've got to go after this punt. We've got to
I
go
don't
after that punt
understand.
block.
I don't. Yeah, that's the thing that is like
Yeah,
we got. This is the first game that I feel like that I've seen our coaching staff get out coached for 4 straight quarters.
yeah.
We've
That's
had
that's fair.
we've had halves, we've had blips and moments in games like the Alabama game earlier this season at the beginning of the beginning of that game. Um, we were able to turn around.
Yeah,
Like this, we had no answer for a team that lost to Kentucky. Like
yeah,
we had no answer for a team that lost to Kentucky and freaking LSU.
yeah.
LSU just got trounced by Alabama at
At
home.
at home. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what the hell is going on that we can't figure this out? Like,
And I
I,
think what's there was definitely a realization for me. I mean, like this game changed a lot for me in the way I'm thinking about going into games now because I had basically convinced, we've made the statement that I don't think it's true anymore. Like we kept saying like the only team that can beat Georgia is Georgia. And
And Ole Miss.
huh?
And Ole Miss.
And Ole Miss. Yeah, that's the thing. Like that wasn't true. Like yes, we dropped passes and yes, we got out coached and all this stuff, but I'm not gonna. This is not one of those. You know, we shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, we
No,
did, but this was like they dominated both lines of scrimmage, and that's how you win
they
games.
kicked our ass.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Carl.
To quote to steal your quote from the last year. Man, we kicked their
I actually had that thought that somewhere somewhere there was an Old Miss. There's
there's
two
an
Old
Ole
Miss.
Miss.
There's two Old Miss buddies like us that woke up like that on Sunday. Had that conversation. Yeah,
The alternate
yeah,
bizarro world.
yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah,
Um,
dude. But hey, you know, yes, we got our butts whooped, but they did not play to their standard, you know,
mhm.
from a metric standpoint. Like we held them in check. They're not used to kicking all those field goals. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I I again I think that if you have a couple of situations where we turn some of those possessions into points, touchdowns, it's a different game.
yeah,
Turnovers on the road and line of scrimmage losses are just gonna kill you in this league. It just is what it is. Like turnovers on the road and losing that battle up front.
yeah.
Um,
I just kept assuming we were going to eventually figure it out. Like I'm just so used to us figuring it out, Like I mean, like at halftime I was like, you know what? Like they should be beating us by a lot more than they are. Like I feel pretty good right now. Like that's how I felt at
yeah,
halftime. Um,
you don't beat teams like Alabama and Georgia with field goals.
right.
That's what we used to always talk about with the Nick Saban teams. Like
Yeah.
we can't beat these guys with just kicking field goals.
Yeah.
We've got to score touchdowns. And
Yeah.
they didn't score touchdowns.
Yeah. 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 It was wild. That was wild. Nah, I don't mean like they Lane dialed it up. He schemed it up. And Kirby said it. Like he said we got out coached. And I agree. So I don't know, man. Back to the
Can confirm.
yeah. Yeah. So they're gonna have to back to work. I don't want to say back to the drawing board, like you got to start all over, but um,
There is a motivation factor. Ole Miss was basically playing an elimination game.
yeah,
I
yeah,
personally think that Georgia's playing an elimination game this weekend.
yeah,
Um, so, when your back's against the wall, like this, what do they say? A wounded tiger is most dangerous when it's cornered.
hmm
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's or a wounded bulldog, I guess I should say. Um, a wounded bulldog is, yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I would say that I would say that it would. I, I don't remember. Did we discuss this or not on the preview? I heard someone say that Tate Ratledge didn't practice like at all
I
last
said
week.
that because I read
Okay.
it somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
He definitely did not look like he practiced.
yeah.
I don't know if he got hurt or not, but like
What
he got pulled and then like was done.
I yeah, I'm trying to remember. Bit of a fog after this weekend, but I believe like he just couldn't like he couldn't physically he couldn't finish like they tried to send him out here. They felt like, you know what, he's been here forever. He knows what he's doing. Even though he didn't practice, he can go in and
He could not.
he could not. I mean, the guy had tight ropes. I mean, he had tight rope surgery. He had the same surgery Brock and Marius Mims had last year. Like it sounds like he's just not ready to be playing yet. So I don't know.
But
Tried
he
to get it
played at
out.
Florida.
Yeah, because someone else got pulled for injury. Like that wasn't like a
Right.
plan. He was like he was there in case of emergency break glass and they needed him. So
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Right. Forgot
yeah,
about that.
yeah.
I mean, if I have to if you were to boil it down to like one thing, like
Mm,
for me it's the offensive line because if the offensive line can keep Beck clean, better things are going to happen. I have to trust that better things are going to happen because we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I know that he's capable of it. I know that they are that as a unit they are capable of it. The offensive line is not playing up to a standard, and that is something that is difficult to swallow. Um, I wish that I could say that it wasn't somewhat expected, but I'm not really sure that I have the confidence in that particular position group, in that particular, position meeting. I don't know, man. I feel like something's got to change at the end of the season in that room.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like kind of like reality setting in of all the turnover we had. And, I mean, I'm actually like, to be honest, like the defense with what they lost, I'm kind of impressed, honestly, with what they're doing. Like to lose Kamari Lassiter, Tyke Smith, Javon Bullard, is like a lot in the secondary. And yes, I've talked about guys kind of running free in the secondary, on Saturday, and that was frustrating. But like, they're that is a that they had to replace a lot of talent. And then, I mean, we lost the running back room basically. Milton and Dejon Edwards are gone. Brock Bowers gone. Ladd McConkey gone. Marcus Rosemy-Jackson gone. And it's been hard to replace those guys. Um, Jeff Dancer talked about that. I listened to the Bulldog Brunch, and he talked about that. He he was pretty like he was like, if you look at the skill players on this team, like who would start on like 17, 18, 21, 22, and his stance was no one. So, and he may not be wrong. So, but you're
I
not
know
playing
that,
against those guys, and you're not playing against those teams from those seasons like we were playing against this season. So I don't know.
yeah, I know that there's definitely talent in these rooms. The question of who's playing in that team, and again, it just goes back to like I could nitpick a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, like if if the offensive line is not getting it done, everyone else looks like sorry, Carter. Like
Yeah,
if the offensive line doesn't keep Carson Beck clean, give him time to go through his progressions, to make faster, to allow him to have time to make reads, allow our wide receivers to get open, etc. Like
yeah,
even if you have bad receivers and you have all day to throw, like eventually they're gonna get open, right? Like
right.
even if
Yeah,
you had bad running backs and you have a C that you and I could run through and a hole that you and I could run through, you know,
yeah.
it helps it makes a subpar running back look a lot better.
It,
Um,
yeah. I
yeah,
will
I
say there
mean,
were
I
some
don't,
really good runs on Saturday that should have been like 3 yard losses that were
yeah,
3 yard gains. There actually was some pretty good, tough running by the backs. I will say that. Yeah.
there's definitely some tough running for sure. But again, it just goes back to the offensive line, and I think there's been a lot of, rightfully so, there's been a lot of eyes on what's been going on there. And it is, somewhat fair, that, you know, Shields has been there a couple of years now. Like some of these are his kids and some of them are not.
Hmm.
But and he allegedly has guys coming in that are going to be, good. But it's hard not to notice that we're we're not producing as nearly as much elite level talent. You're either elite or you're not on the line of scrimmage, and we are not elite right now. Um,
Yeah.
the thing that is the thing that is, maybe I'm being too hard on him is maybe Luke left the cupboard barer than we thought it was.
Hmm.
Um, maybe that, you know, it's kind of like I know you don't have this, but for all my pellet smoker friends out there, like there's a pellet bridge gap. When in the feeder, sometimes when the auger is trying to pull in pellets, there's a gap because something gets clogged up, something in the mechanism just it doesn't feed as much. So there's a brief time where there's no pellets coming into the flame and it's not holding fire, basically.
Yeah.
maybe we're at a bridge right now. Because there's just not enough talent. There's not enough talent in the room. And I believe that if you go back and look at the 2022 and 2023 recruiting classes, um, there's a lot of kids that we brought in those classes that are no longer on campus.
Yeah. Yeah.
We basically lost an entire class of offensive linemen over the last several years to attrition. And I don't care how you shake a stick at it, like that's impossible to overcome with nothing but time.
Yeah.
And we could just be here sitting there watching it happen.
Yeah. Well, I think too, we saw on full display on Saturday what Ole Miss. I mean that team was built through the portal in one off season. And Lane said in the post game in the post game, like, we losing to Georgia. I'm going to paraphrase, but like it's like, losing to that Georgia last year was eye opening, and we reconstructed our roster and built this team to be able to compete with Georgia. Like that's what they did. Um,
That was his that was his Jim Harbaugh moment.
yeah. So I mean, I think again, I know like one of the big things that Kirby does is self scouting, self evaluation of the program, and they do a lot of that in the off season. And I'm sure they're going to do that here, and they're going to have to take a look at that. Now, what I will say is the wild thing about it is, and this was where I'm going to go back to where we were when we started, of like getting the playoff and you never know. To your point, John, this team lost to LSU. This team lost to Kentucky at home. So even with that roster that was built through the portal and with these players that were capable of doing what we saw on Saturday to Georgia, also lost to those teams. This is a weird, wild, crazy college football season. It's a new sport. I keep saying that with the 12-team playoff, with NIL, with the transfer portal. It is very different. And I mean, you just never know. You never know. Like from week to week, these teams are so up and down. Um, and that is the one thing Kirby says, like, we're not going to ride the wave. We're just going to focus on what's in front of us and what's next. And I'm going to, and Kirby we trust. I'm gonna trust him to get these guys, ready for the rest of the season. The other thing too is we've been on an insane road trip, or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's been when it really hit me leaving the Mississippi State game when Brooke Whitmire said, "See you all, Georgia fans, see you in 5 weeks." It's like, holy cow, 5 weeks. What was the stat that Stu Mandel put out today? Georgia has played more top 10 or no more ranked teams in road or neutral site games this season than have played home games. Period. So we've played
Mhm.
four ranked teams either at their place or in a neutral site game. Neutral site being Clemson. We've only played three home games so far. No one did us any favors with the schedule. The schedule is nuts, but
Yeah, which is why when I hear teams like BYU and Boise State and
Indiana.
uh, Indiana and Colorado being discussed for the CFP or getting buys and things like that, like
Yeah.
full stop. Like you, we're. I guess that's the thing. Like I feel like the measure of our success
Mm,
is sadly still the SEC. Like the measure of our success is being able to beat teams in the SEC that we feel like are way better than other conferences. So like
yeah.
we talk about like, oh yeah, we don't need to go, you don't need to go to the SEC championship because everybody's good.
Yeah. Which, by the way, it's like we're not mathematically eliminated from the SEC championship, but like crazy stuff needs to happen. So
Chaos.
yeah, yeah, you need like Alabama losing to Mississippi State or Auburn. In
I
it,
mean, at this point, like
yeah,
just bring it on.
yeah, yeah.
Bring on, give
We
me all the chaos.
like hindsight, looking back at everything, which by the way, found an online calculator that'll calculate all the tiebreakers, which because it is wild. Um, we basically we went into that game on Saturday controlling our destiny, as you say. to make the SEC championship game, and we lost control of it by losing to Ole Miss. If we had won out, we would have been in. But that's not the case now. Even if we beat Tennessee, we need help. So
Yeah. I'm not too worried about winning the SEC, but it is kind of crazy that like literally everybody has two losses and they're not like their losses like intermingled all amongst the
yeah,
team.
it's all
Like
over the place.
we've basically, I saw someone like jokingly say like a bunch of mid teams beating each other. Like, dude,
No.
give me BYU, give me Colorado, give me Boise State, give me Penn State, give me all of those teams that are getting all of the smoke right now any day of the week.
Yeah.
Like I think that we would win those games.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Those teams don't have Walter Nolan's or the mayor of Oxford, JJ Pegues, which that phrase made it on the broadcast, by the way. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I
They
did.
did call him that. So shout out
Yeah,
Hunter.
they call him the mayor when he got hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, oh no, the mayor of Oxford. Okay, before I forget, uh, it was not only a bad week on the field, it was a bad week in coaches over unders. We both had losing picks. Um,
Mm.
I did less bad than you. I am at 500 on the season, so I have the overall lead. But I went 3-5. You went 1-7. So not a great day on the picks. But thank you, Coach, for
Not
checking
great,
them.
Bob. Not great, Bob.
Yeah, appreciate it, Coach. Always enjoyed the Sunday text thread when we get the over unders updates.
13%. Yeah.
Yeah, it was brutal, brutal, brutal. Um, I mean, other than that, Saturday was okay. Lily had two shows of her play on Saturday, so she was like gone at that all day.
Other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the show?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
Looked like a good production.
oh, dude, it was so good. We went Friday night. It was really good. It was really good. It was hilarious. I had never seen that before. So something rotten is what she was in, and it was really good.
Something rotten.
Something rotten. Yeah.
What is it about?
Shakespeare. It's about like Shakespeare is a character in the play.
Oh,
It
okay.
it's about like a an aspiring playwright who wants to be good, but Shakespeare is like the best playwright and is like famous and everything. So the character of Shakespeare is actually like part of the comic relief because he's like famous and acts like he's famous and stuff. It's pretty funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I mean it's a musical comedy. It was good.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't do a whole lot this weekend. Uh, sports, sports free weekend for us. So
Gotcha.
everybody just kind of hung out. Carter went and did some fishing. He had some basketball. He has basketball season coming up, so we had basketball practice. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, other than that, we just kind of hung out. The calm before the holiday storms, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think that everybody should just buckle up, enjoy the home games that are on the docket here for the next what 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. We got we got three home games coming up and the playoff starts now for Georgia, I think. So
Yeah, I think that that's also something to like people saying like, oh, you're gonna get to a 16 team playoff, or we're gonna expand the playoffs. Like, if they do, I feel like that is gonna further like not help anybody's argument about the regular season mattering because
right.
even with the 12 team playoff, all that would happen in those scenarios is that the it pushes back the meaningfulness of the regular season to be the first few weeks of the season, which is kind of scary in college football. At
Yeah.
least now we've got what 9 games that we've all played basically, and so now you're just like, are you in or are you out? Like
Mm,
kind of situation. So if you win, you're in. If you don't, then you're out. Like there's not a whole lot of like wiggle room.
right. Yeah. If you get up to 16 teams, then you're talking like three lost teams from the SEC are getting in like no problem. I think.
Right.
Like this week would not be this Georgia Tennessee game coming up would not be an elimination game if in a 16 team playoff. I think they'd both get in, you know, with one more loss. So, um, actually, one thing I totally forgot to say earlier. Again, when it rains, it pours. Ole Miss returned a punt for positive yardage. For
I
positive
saw that.
yardage,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Like it was like 2 yards. Come on, like whatever.
Killing me, man. Like all the streaks are ending against that guy. And that's like I think if you listen to Chapel Bell Curve, like Yara talking about the villain origin story, like I can't stand Lane Kiffin, man. Losing to him is just the worst.
Yeah,
On the plus side, like I guess that he had a chance to run the score up, but didn't. Um,
he did call a lot of timeouts toward the end of the game.
he
I will
did
say that.
call some timeouts.
We,
Yeah.
so, which I think is starting to kind of Lanning has been doing that too. I think that's kind of becoming a thing. And like they call timeout when you're winning, and so you can huddle the team and give them motivational talks or whatever, and like look at what you've done or something like that.
Yeah, you made their team go home or
Yeah,
something
that's what
like that.
Lanning was saying.
I
Yeah,
heard
yeah, on the road.
Lanning.
Yeah, so this wasn't at home. I don't know. But hey, look, guys, like this is funny for me to say this, especially considering you once did this. But like, you got to wait until the game is over before you storm the field. Um, Throwback to the 2000 whenever you stormed the field for Tennessee. Um,
Yeah.
but we're getting $350,000 out of that, by the way. So they got double fined. So the going rate is a $250,000 fine for storming the field. They actually bumped it up an extra 100,000 because they stormed the field twice. So Ole Miss owes a $350,000 fine, and that fine goes to Georgia. So
Hmm.
I don't know what we could. I don't know what that money is allowed to be spent on, or if there are any stipulations. But maybe we can upgrade our line of scrimmage
Yes.
with that money, put it towards
Yes.
NIL.
Seriously. Like, hey, Mr. Nolan, would
Yeah,
you like a raise?
right.
Or I think I'd rather have what's the kid on the outside? Um
Prince,
the
something.
Yeah, Princely.
Yeah,
Princely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He was a problem.
yeah, yeah. They're a good team, man. They were good. They were good. Tip
If I
hats
told
off.
you before the game, if I told you before the game that they would kick 5 field goals, do you think that we would have won that game?
With the way the season's been going on, I would have said how many times we turned the ball over.
Yeah. Well, that also wasn't very positive either.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. But yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean that was wild that we held them to that many field goals.
mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
we
they only scored 2 touchdowns.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Unfortunately, we only scored 1 touchdown.
yeah. I mean that's the lowest point total of the Kirby Smart era. It's only happened one other time. So we scored 10 points in a loss to Florida in 2016 in Kirby's first year. That's the only other time we've been held to 10 points under Kirby Smart. So what they did to Georgia was, you can't say unprecedented, but it had only been done once before. We had scored 30 points in almost every game this year except for Kentucky. Um, so yeah, I don't know, man. I will say what I said on Twitter Saturday night after the game was just like, you know what, flush it. We just got to flush it and move on, and let's get home to Athens. We're going to be in the friendly confines of Sanford Stadium between the hedges um, for the rest of the regular season. So I'm ready to get back to Athens.
Amen. Amen to that. I'll be living vicariously through you yet again. Um, Feel free to share your adventures. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta finish off these land sharks. I don't know if you dear listener or watcher has noticed. I've been drinking land sharks this week. So I'm down to the last couple. I'm down to the last couple of these, and I'm happy to move on.
Nice. No more of those.
No more land shark. No, no more land sharks. I also on the pregame run, like I went for a 10K,
Oh,
thinking
man.
that maybe the 5K wasn't enough and that we needed some extra, but maybe I was too gassed. I don't know. Maybe it's just too much, too much. Need to keep it under 5K.
Kim and I had like separated the week before too. Like we didn't do the entire run together. And so this week I was like, we have to do the whole run together. We can't split up. That was the problem. That was not the problem.
She leaving you in the dust? Is that what you're saying?
No, she runs a lot more than I do, and she had like stuff to catch up on for her week or whatever last weekend.
Okay.
And so she like had already done a run and then was doing this run with me. And like a little ways into it, I was like, you need to just go home. Like you're gassed. Like I can see it. Like you've already this is like your second run of the day. Like you're tired. And she's like, I'm fine. I'm like, no, why don't you just go home? Like I'll finish off. So this week we stayed together for a run. So yeah. Unfortunately didn't help.
Uh,
Didn't help. Oh well. I
nothing.
tried. We tried. We
Yeah,
tried.
nothing.
We
Nothing
tried.
happened. I think the text thread, the tailgate thread was they were getting naked early.
Oh my gosh, it's so
Next
funny.
week you're gonna have to start naked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just so
Uh,
everyone knows that the that line of conversation is around the changing of clothes at has
changing of
changing of your
clothes.
fit at halftime.
Yes.
Oh man. Oh well. Oh well. It happens.
It does. Fortunately, we do have the situation where like these soul crushing losses are
Yeah.
not as bad. I feel like in a regular like SEC season, these like this would have been a soul crushing loss.
Oh yeah. Last year this happened. Like if we didn't have the 12-team playoff, like I would have been devastated on Saturday night. But I was just like, you know what? Like, I mean, just that's where I said it. I'm not saying it doesn't matter because it's not that we didn't lose anything. It significantly decreased the chance we go to the SEC championship. I'd kind of put that. I'm kind of, you know, something crazy could happen and Georgia gets back in the fold there, but I'm just kind of putting that out of my purview. But like, playoff is still alive. Flush it. Move on. Like we can't do anything about what happened. All we can do is improve going forward, and we just got to do that. And like I said, man, this team has been playing away from home for a long time, and we get to go back home, and the rest of the season is at home. And we'll talk about this a lot when we preview the next game, but like they need our help. They need our help. So we need to give them that environment at home for Tennessee, like Ole Miss gave them. So
Mm, I like it. We need to show up and show early and show out.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So we'll talk about that
And
at length in the
yeah,
next episode.
yeah, yeah. So make it mean moreish.
Nice, nice.
All right, man. Well, this one definitely wasn't fun. I have a feeling that it's going to be an underscore of what you like to say. You're never as bad as
Yeah,
your losses, and you're never as good as your wins. Like this one definitely hits home. So we'll just look to regroup. I would hate to be the Tennessee Volunteers. I imagine Bobby was watching that game and had a look of just utter fear that probably was emanating throughout his body.
yeah, yep.
And we're gonna have to send him home crying again.
Nice.
Until then, go dogs.
Go dogs.